Hey, how's it going, fight fans? Welcome to mindforcombat. If you're new to the channel, my name's Rohan. It's my platform. I do MMA and boxing related content. If you're new here, why don't you help me grow my platform? All you have to do is subscribe to this channel, like the video if you like it, and maybe hit that bell icon so you get notified every time I upload a video. With that said, in this video I'm going to be breaking down the upcoming lightweight fight between Paul Felder and Dan Hooker, which should be an absolute banger of a main event. It's a very interesting fight, and coming into this fight, there's a couple of things that we need to think about. So for Paul Felder, he finally gets his big moment to shine. He's a guy who's been in the UFC for a long time, and he joined the UFC with an 8-0 professional record. So in that time, he's been that undefeated breakout sensation when he knocked out Danny Castillo with a spinning back fist. Then he kind of dwindled when he took some losses, and after that loss to Francisco Trinaldo, at one point he was all but wrote off. But then he's rebuilt. He's become a staple in the commentary game, and he's really gotten his name out there. And he's finally in a position, coming off back-to-back wins, having beaten Edson Barboza to revenge a previous loss, that he may finally be in a position to break out. He takes on Paul Felder, who since coming up from featherweight has looked absolutely sensational. Every time he's been in the ring with everyone not named Edson Barboza, he has been an absolute killer in the ring, and we're talking about some of the top best lightweights in the world, and we'll talk about some of that a bit more. The winner of this fight definitely puts themselves in a position where they're perhaps only 2 wins away from a title fight, and with a lot of interesting stuff going on in the division, particularly with Kevin Lee taking on Charles Oliveira, perhaps the winner of this fight's the winner of that, or maybe there's this Carlos Diego Ferreira around, this Islam Makhachev. Tons of intriguing fights to come out of this, and tons of intriguing positions to come out of this, where you're only potentially 2 more wins away from a title fight for the winner of this. Now, because this is a lightweight division, maybe in any other division they would have been a little bit closer, but this has always historically been one of the most stacked divisions. So this is a division where it takes that tiny bit more work, but still this is very, very exciting. And without further ado, let's go through the tape. So Paul Felder is 34 years old. He's getting a bit older, and in April he turns 35 years old. So as a lightweight, his window is closing. Also, it has to be considered that he has been around for a long time, not just MMA, but he's been fighting kickboxing professionally for a long time as well. So you have to wonder if it is going to come to a point where he's starting to slow down. He fights Dan Hooker, who is a much younger man. Dan Hooker is still only 30 years old. At 30 years old, he still has practically his whole career ahead of him. He's 4 years younger than Paul Felder. You might as well say 5 years younger than him, given that it's only 2-3 months to go till he turns 35. This is a guy who's coming into his own and definitely growing into it. As a featherweight, we never saw the best Dan Hooker because he was so emaciated making that weight class that we only saw a diminished version of him, and as a lightweight he has looked really, really good. This is a very intriguing fight. Paul Felder comes into this fight with a professional mixed martial arts record of 17 wins and 4 losses, and takes on Dan Hooker, who's a professional mixed martial arts record of 19 wins and 8 losses. So these both have a very similar relative amount of experience, particularly when we're talking about main events. I don't think neither of them have had a main event fight yet, but this is both of their co-main event fights. So this is a very important fight for both gentlemen. It's a fight that's going to mean a lot for the winner, who walks away and is going to put themselves in the biggest position. In terms of experience and age, I suppose they're meeting at a good time, in my opinion. Paul Felder stands at 5'11", which makes him 1 inch shorter than the 6' tall Paul Felder. But where things get interesting is that Dan Hooker has actually got, I said 6' tall Paul Felder, sorry, 6' tall Dan Hooker. Where things get interesting is that Dan Hooker has a 75-inch reach, as opposed to Paul Felder's 70-inch reach. So that gives him a 5-inch reach advantage over him. Actually 4.5 to be precise, because Paul Felder actually has 70.5-inch reach. But that's going to be a nice advantage he enjoys, and particularly as I believe this fight will be fought mostly on the feet. It's very interesting to watch this one come together. I have some real questions about which way this will go, especially when you're considering the length, the range, the distance. When you're looking at their styles, I believe that Paul Felder is a very well-rounded fighter, but he likes to get in close, and he likes to elbow people, he likes to smash people, he uses his strength well. And I think if there's a big advantage he's going to enjoy in this fight, it's going to be his physicality. I believe he's a much stronger man than Dan Hooker, and he definitely utilizes that in his fights. Dan Hooker is he's a very sick, slick Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu guy off his back. He's got good submissions, he can wrap guys up, but where he shines is in his stand-up, and he's actually very, very dangerous. He hits hard and he finishes people. If he's shown weaknesses, well, that will be susceptibility to body shots, but we're going to talk about that in the issues in this fight anyway. Some of the key wins. So for Paul Felder, he's coming off the biggest win of his career over Edson Barboza. That's certainly a big and key win. He's beaten Charles the Bronx Oliveira, who's gone on to go on an absolute tear since that fight, and really that's his 2 best wins. Like I mentioned, he beat Danny Castillo earlier in his career when Danny Castillo was considered a top 10, top 15 fighter, so that's a good win. For Dan Hooker, he's had some really good results since moving up to lightweight. He beat Jim Miller, he beat Gilbert Burns, who's having a lot of success, and he knocked him out, who's having a lot of success at welterweight now. Obviously, he most recently beat Ali Aquino, who was famed off his competitive fight with Habib. I mean, it was 50-43, so I think it's kind of oversold how competitive it was. But beating Ali Aquino is always a good win. A guy who's beating Kevin Lee, so that's a good win. The issues coming into this fight. For Paul Felder, I believe some of the issues may be that A, he's a bit predictable, and B, I believe he can be a little bit slow. I believe his strikes, whilst powerful, they do lack that snappy speed that sometimes you need to excel at the top of the game. The issues for Dan Hooker in this fight are going to be most certainly his susceptibility to body shots. I believe that sometimes he's very open to get hit to the body, especially when he's got that lanky frame. And after watching the Edson Barboza fight, I do question how well he'll be able to take Paul Felder's body's attacks, which no doubt will be coming constantly throughout the 25-minute fight. The X factor for Paul Felder is going to be his physicality, his strength, and his power and his punching ability. And for Dan Hooker, with the exception of his punching power and explosiveness in his strikes, is going to be his length. Let's get into the prediction. What's interesting about this fight is that this is a very similar fight to the Edson Barboza-Dan Hooker fight, and Edson Barboza absolutely mauled Dan Hooker. Now, Dan Hooker's a warrior, and he stuck around in it as long as he could. But if Edson Barboza was able to have a lot of success with body shots and strikes and able to use that form of striking, I have no doubt that Paul Felder can. Now, don't get me wrong, Paul Felder is not the cannon or spring that Edson Barboza is. He is not as explosive as him. But where he lacks in Edson Barboza's explosiveness, he makes up for endurability. So that's why that fight worked out so well. So maybe we'll see a trilogy there. Anyways, Paul Felder, in my opinion, will be able to close the distance with the gap. He's got good enough stand-up, he's experienced enough on the feet to be able to do that. On the feet, I believe it to be a fairly even fight, to be honest with you. I don't see it going to the ground, but I think where the difference is, Paul Felder's going to be much stronger than him in the clinch, and he's going to go to the body a lot. Dan Hooker suffers when someone goes to the body, and he does struggle to deal with that. Also, I believe that he's going to struggle with the physicality of Paul Felder. Whilst I believe this fight will be competitive for the first 2 or 3 rounds, I believe as the fight goes on, this ain't going to play out very well for Dan Hooker, and I believe that Paul Felder is going to start to chip away at Dan Hooker's body, and we're going to see Paul Felder get a beautiful finish in the main event. So Fight Fans, for my official prediction, I'm going to go with Paul Felder to get the finish in the 4th or 5th rounds, probably by a body strike. So hold me on that one. Let's see how I do. It's not very often I predict how it's going to happen and in which round, but I'm relatively confident on this one. So anyways, Fight Fans, why don't you guys comment below? Let me know how you see this fight going. Let me know what you thought of my breakdown. And excuse me if I was stuttering a bit, you know. I haven't really had my lunch break yet, so I'm still a bit hungry. And need some water. So yeah, it happens sometimes. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed. Anyways, as always, I'm Rohan, and this is Mind for Combat.